going to do something different this morning. Instead of preaching my message, which I'll bring to you next week, I do have a sermon prepared. I want you to know that. I did prepare a message. I want to share with you a blessing that I have experienced this last week. Really unlike anything I've ever experienced. A few weeks ago, I received an email from one of the gentlemen who worked in the prison ministry with my wife and I at the Huron Valley Women's Prison down in Ypsilanti. And he shared about a program called One Day with God that was being held yesterday at the Thumb Regional Facility in Lapeer, which is prison, men's prison. And they were sharing how they needed men to come in and work as mentors and as chaperones in this program. Last Tuesday, I went to a training in Lapeer. Just a 2-hour training is all that's required, and any of you can be involved in this ministry if you'd like. I went to a 2-hour training at a church in Lapeer. I had 1,000 questions. I'll tell you, I was like Columbo. One more thing, one more question. And even after I asked all these questions, I still was confused about places and times, but I got it all figured out. And Friday morning at 6:30, I arrived at the prison in Lapeer, where I met with 39 other volunteers. And we went into the prison and we met with 40 of the male inmates, the men, the dads. And we met with them all day long. And the team, and I'm just a helper. All I did all day long was get to sit and listen to the teachings and make sure that the gentleman that I was working with, and I was sort of sponsoring, made sure that he had enough Kool-Aid, make sure that he, anything that he needed, a pencil, a pen, some paper, anything that he needed, I was almost like a servant, and it was kind of a servant ministry. And we were there all day long teaching these men how to be godly dads. That was the whole thing, how to be a godly dad. And the teaching went all morning, and then it went until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they closed it all out by showing the movie Courageous, which is a great, powerful Christian movie on being a godly dad. And they showed this. During the day, they gave an opportunity for men to give their lives to Christ, and 14 of those 40 men made first-time commitments to Jesus.
Praise God.
At that event. So I went home blessed, tired but blessed. And we finished up about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then yesterday, we met at a church, the church where we did the training, and there were 120 volunteers from all over the state of Michigan who descended on this church. We went in and we signed in, and they gave each of us an assignment. We left our car keys. We left everything else in the car. The only thing we could take in, you could wear a wedding ring and take your driver's license, and that was it. And we had breakfast, and then the kids came. These are the children of those 40 men in the prison. And they are brought, the 2 kids that I had were brought by their great uncle, their dad's uncle. His name was Boo. And he brought the kids. And then we were assigned to the children. There was a lady I had never known. She'd done this several years. I did not know her. And we became acquainted, and we sponsored these 2 children. We were their chaperones for the day. And we had breakfast with them. We took them, and we all had wristbands and all kinds of different security things. We took them on a bus. We went to the prison. They took us into the prison, into a large gymnasium where we'd had our training. And we sat with the kids and waited for the dads to come in. And we did all kinds of different little activities with the kids and waited. And then they announced the dads are coming. And here are 60 kids who've come to see their dads. And then we all lined up halfway across the gym, And the director began to announce the men's names one at a time. And as the men came out on the floor, the children ran across the gym. Some of them had not had contact with their fathers in a year, 14 months. Some of them had never seen their father. And they ran across the gym, and there was hugging and all kinds of things as they greeted the children, and the dads greeted there in the middle of that gym floor. It was a very emotional thing. And then there were 11 men who came who had no children come. That broke my heart. And as they introduced the 11 men, we all applauded for them, and they came to go through all the activities and prepare a backpack for their kids that will be mailed by the ministry to the home. And so the children at home who didn't come to the prison will receive all of the gifts and things that the kids who came to the prison. And there were a lot of nice things that they gave to the kids. And as these men were being introduced, something very unusual happened. One of the men was introduced, and he started to walk across the floor, thinking that no child was there. And all of a sudden, a little boy, just to my right, broke out of our crowd and ran out on the floor. And he grabbed his dad. His dad didn't expect him, because they'd already said that all the children. And he got missed. He missed his name. And he grabbed his dad, and to see that dad and that little boy embracing there in the middle of that gym floor was just so heart-moving. And then we spent the rest of the day. They played games, they did relays, they did all kinds of things. They did crafts together, they made all kinds of things. And then there was a daddy-daughter dance. And the daddies had their daughters. One man had two daughters. He had one he could hold in his arm, and the other one he had like this. And he had two little girls he was dancing with there in the gym. And they were playing Dancing with Cinderella. Beautiful song. And they sang, and they danced. And then they had a daddy-son walk, where they walked around the gym like they were walking. They were told to pretend they were in a park, going for a walk through the park. And they walked in circles around the gym, and they just visited with each other and shared with each other. It was so moving to see this. And then they brought in the strong man, who folded up a frying pan, who took an iron bar and bit it in his teeth, and did all these different strongman things as he shared Jesus, and gave an opportunity for the children and the dads to give their hearts to Jesus again. And then we had a meal together, and more time. We just had to leave the tables and leave just the dads and the kids there so they could spend some time together and talk and pray and whatever they wanted to do. And we moved out into another area of the gym to give them some privacy. And then it was time to go home. And we went outside, all the dads and all the kids, and they had a balloon launch. And they said, all you children who love your dads, let your balloons go. And all these balloons took off. And the second was, all you dads who are going to be godly dads and love your kids and love Jesus, let your balloons go. And all these balloons ascended. It's the only time I've ever been to a balloon launch that the balloons went straight up. There was no wind, apparently. They went straight up, and you could see them until they went into the clouds. And we stood out and watched this. And then there was the final embrace between the children and the dads turned around and had to go back into the prison. And then we took our children, and we went through the long security process of being able to go out of the prison and get on the buses. And their caregivers, Great Uncle Bo was there waiting just outside the prison. They took the kids home. We got on the bus, went back to the church, and got in our cars. What a marvelous experience it was. Amen. To be a part of that. Yes. And to see that kind of ministry. And this ministry is taking place all across the state of Michigan. Every prison in Michigan has One Day with God every year. They do it in every prison. If you go on YouTube and look up One Day with God, there are two videos. One is a women's prison where Kathy and I do ministry every year. And they did a One Day with God there just before our last Carrots weekend. We knew a lot of the people in the video. We knew a lot of the ladies. I counseled with a lot of the ladies in the video. And you can get an idea of where we go to do ministry in the prison. And then the second one is a men's prison in Muskegon. And they're moving. They're from Nightline, ABC Nightline. Did programs, and these are videos of those programs. Very, very moving experience. So just to let you know, and as I stood and watched this, and I'll stop, but as I watched this, I saw people from every kind of church. And I asked people, where do you go to church? And there was this denomination, and this denomination, and this denomination. A lot of people from independent churches here and there, and churches I'd never heard of. But they all had one thing in common. They loved Jesus. And they wanted to help these children to be with their dads and help their dads to be godly dads. And so as you pray, just remember these dads, these 40 men who are dedicated to loving Jesus and to being the godly dads, and pray for that ministry. And if any of you are interested in being a part of that next year, let me know. And we can go to the training together, and we can be a part of this together. You really only have to go on Saturday. At 7 a.m. we meet at the church, and by 5 o'clock we're all done and ready to leave. So it's just about 10 hours on a Saturday, but what a wonderful, wonderful experience. So I share that with you this morning as a great blessing from God. Let's stand together. And Brother Dan, come and lead us in 2 verses. Let's